Hei og velkommen til å være sammen med oss i Åpne Dører en liten halvtime. Somalia er et av de landene som ligger øverst på World Watch List, og det har det gjort i mange år. Hvis man bekjenner Jesu navn i dette landet, så er man i fare for livet sitt. I dag så har vi en gjest som skal fortelle litt om hva som skjer i dette landet. Aweis Ali, welcome.
Thank you.
You are first to say something about who you are. You are Somali, and you are a leader of a Bible society. Actually, the Somali Bible Society.
Correct.
Yes. And you are in Norway for the moment.
For the moment, yes.
For the moment, yes. Welcome to Norway and welcome to studio again.
Thank you so much.
You have a quite strong story, a testimony. And I would like our viewers to have your story, because you come from a country which is quite different from Norway. How is your country?
Well, Somalia has been going through a brutal civil war since 1991, when the Somali government collapsed. And it has been very lawless since then. Certain improvements have been made by different transitional governments, but the country is still in mayhem.
Mm. And you grew up in that time?
I grew up before the Somali Civil War in 1991, of course. But since the Civil War started, it affected the whole nation. The whole population seems to be traumatized. And there's an Islamic insurgency group that has been brutalizing the Somali people for a very long time. And when there's a lawlessness and there's no law and order, it's usually the minority groups that suffer the most. Many times women and children, of course, do suffer, but the Somali Christian community faced what I could sometimes describe as a massacre in Somalia. Many of them have been killed, but despite the killings of Christians, often by Islamists, sometimes by family members who are not happy that their kin became disciples of Christ. But despite this pain and suffering, the Somali church remains resilient, and it is one of the fastest growing churches in the world.
Yeah, when you told that yesterday, it amazes me so much, because not many years ago, we in Open Doors we have some numbers of how many Christians we think there might be in these countries, and that was not very many. And now you are coming and you are telling that it's really growing.
Yes, the Somali church has been growing, I would say, from its inception in 1881, but the fastest growing has been witnessed since 1991, and I believe because of the persecution of the church, that when the community of faith came together and God blessed the community of faith, and we started growing. We never had statistics before until the Somali Bible Society did its census and concluded it and published it in December last year, 2023. And we found out that there are many professing Somali Christians, many of them very nominal. The main reason being that they did not have an opportunity to be discipled. They did not have an opportunity to be taught and to be baptized. Many of these people came to the Lord through visions and dreams. Many others came to the Lord through social media ministry. And of course, many others are Christians today because of their parents and grandparents.
And actually, we will come back to this later. But you yourself have a story about becoming a Christian, or you become, what do we say, become a follower of Jesus. And then it took several years before you met someone at all that was a brother in faith.
Yes.
So why don't you tell how it started? Because you grew up in a Muslim context.
Right. I grew up in Mogadishu, Somalia. I'm the son of a Muslim preacher, a cleric, a madrasa teacher. Growing up as a kid, my dad taught me the Islamic faith. But early on, even before I was 15, I had doubts about Islamic faith. I learned the Quran, the Hadith. I studied Islam. My dad was actually preparing me to be a madrasa teacher, to
Yeah.
succeed him, to take his place in the future. But at the age of 15, I knew that Islam was not for me. And
Can you
yeah,
say why did you come to that conclusion?
because I read the Quran, I read the Hadith, the sayings and the actions of Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, um, and I read Islam with open mind, and I did not like what I saw. Much of what made me walk away from Islam can be read from my biography, which is
Mm.
available.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I write a lot about my testimony, about my life, about the Somali church, about why I walked away from Islam. So that information is available.
Mm. Yeah. And then, but when you knew, in a way that that was nothing for you, what made you look into Jesus?
Um, when I was 15, I heard a radio ministry by the SIM, Sudan Interior Mission. It was a shortwave radio program, and I listened from when I was 15. And I wrote a letter to them, and I asked them if they could help me know more about the Bible. And they sent me a Bible study materials in 1983, and they kept on supplying any Bible study material I wanted. So I read and I read and I consumed so much
Uh-huh.
of what they sent to me that I fall in love with Jesus. In the Somali context, the idea of being an agnostic or an atheist, that idea is a foreign concept. Um, if a Somali wants to walk away from Islam because he or she believes it's not the right path, the alternative is not to be without God, but to go back. Because Muslims believe that Jesus was a prophet, the Messiah from God, who came before Muhammad. Just like Moses came, they teach, before Jesus. So if you find yourself in the wrong place, the typical Somali mind is, I need to go back. So my going back was to go back to Jesus.
Yeah, that's interesting. That it was going back to Jesus. Wow. But you continue studying, reading the material, and communicating by mail.
Yes, I was communicating by mail. That was, of course, before internet. And in 1986, I made the decision to become a disciple of Christ. And the radio ministry, which was at the time based in Nairobi, Kenya, continued supporting me with Bible study materials. But that was basically it. I did not have a community of faith to worship with. I did not know any Christian nearby I could fellowship with. So for a while, it was a lonely walk.
Mm. How did you feel about that? How did you experience that work?
Um, in the Islamic culture, in the Somali culture, it is not good to be alone. Like if you are a Muslim, you have to be connected to a Muslim community, and that's how you grow and your faith is sustained. And as a Christian, I knew the same rules applied to me. I needed a community of faith.
Mm.
So it took me 7 years before I could meet another Christian to fellowship with, and that happened in 1993 in Mogadishu.
In 93.
Yes.
7 years walking your walk of faith alone.
Mhm.
But there were Christians not that far from you, but you couldn't meet them. Is that right?
Yes, in fact, the young man I met in 1993 lived somewhere not far away from me. But though I knew he was a good man, I had no idea he was a follower of Christ. So when we met and he told me, I was very impressed.
Yeah.
Very impressed.
But before you met, before 93, when
Yeah.
you met that
Yes.
guy,
Yeah.
there was a church, a Catholic church, with someone gathered.
Yes.
You could have met them, couldn't you?
Yes.
But why didn't you?
When I became a follower of Christ and I felt very lonely, and that's late 1980s, I sent a letter to the radio ministry, and I asked the missionary in charge if he knew any Somali Christians I could worship with. And he sent me a cryptic response, something to the effect like, do you know a Somali Christian group that meets around the Roman Catholic Church? There was a Protestant group that was given by the Roman Catholic Church a space to meet in the cathedral in Mogadishu. And it's quite a big group of Somali Christians. So when he told me, do you know that group that meets, he did not tell me the specific location or time. He said, around, near the Roman Catholic Church. I said, no, I don't know. Please tell me more. And he did not tell me more. The reason being that missionary never met me in person. He only sent me Bible study materials. He knew my commitment, as much as he could read from my correspondence. But he was worried that I could endanger the lives of the Somali Christians there. And maybe that could have happened, say, in two ways. The first way being that maybe I was not a genuine Christian and I could harm the Christian community. Maybe I was an imposter. I was pretending to be a Christian. That was a concern. And it is not uncommon in the Islamic ministry for a Muslim to pretend to be a Muslim so he can have access to the community of faith and then persecute them. So I do not blame the missionary and his team. Mm-hmm. And the second concern the missionary had was probably maybe this guy is a genuine believer, but maybe he has loose lips, so to speak. Maybe he will talk too much. And then he could endanger the lives of the community of faith that met there. So I think he had one or both of these concerns, and both are legitimate concerns if you don't know the person you are talking to.
That is how careful you need to be in that culture.
Yes, you have to be extremely careful. If you are not careful, you could risk the lives of many, many believers.
And Aweis, that is actually what later on happened to you and your group, because you became a group in Mogadishu.
Yes.
House church.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
When I met that gentleman, his name is Liban. When I met Liban, and we decided to start a house church in Mogadishu, Somalia, and that's 1993. And as far as we knew, there was any house church in the Somalia capital. There was none, as far as we could tell. So we came together, just two of us. We decided to plant the church, witness to people, gather the community of faith, because he knew that there were some other Somali believers who did not have a fellowship. So he wanted these people of God to come together and form a house church. So eventually we did that, and in less than a year, our number grew from 2 people, my friend and I, to 14 members. And 14 members, house church in Mogadishu is a mega church.
Wow.
That's really big. And very quickly we came under severe persecution by Muslims who were not happy with our walk with the Lord and with our gathering. We received direct threats against our lives. And remember, that's 1993. There was no law and order. There was no government to speak of that could have guaranteed the security of its citizens. So we knew somebody could come, kill us, and get away with it. And we prayed, and God gave us visions and dreams. In early 1994, sadly, my good friend Liban was reporting to work in Mogadishu, and he was shot and killed by 2 Muslim gunmen.
He was the first one who...
He was the first one of the house church to be killed, and eventually of the 14 members, 12 were killed for their faith.
And at the moment, you are the only one remaining here.
I'm the only one remaining here because the other believer who was not killed died of natural causes years ago.
How did you experience God in that situation? I mean, you were 14 young men in a house church. You wanted to share Jesus in your city and in your country. And then you used the word earlier, hunted down.
Yes.
Yes.
We were hunted down one by one. But because I read my Bible so well, I knew that persecution was part of the Christian life. I knew that if you wanted to live a godly life in Christ Jesus, you will be persecuted. I knew that. But still, it was a very painful experience.
Sure. And this was in quite a short time.
Yeah, because those who were killing us could not come to where we were meeting as a group. So they hunted us down in the sense that they killed us one after another. For example, the first believer was killed in 1994, Liban, and the last one was killed in the summer of 1996. So every opportunity they had, they took advantage of that.
So that meant that you could never feel safe when you were walking around, or?
Yes, I knew I could be taken out anytime. I was not reckless with my security. I was very careful. But eventually I realized it was not safe enough for me to stay, and that was when I left Somalia for Ethiopia in the summer of 1996.
You needed also to come up to be able to breathe more freely.
Yes. I wanted a reprieve from the persecution. I wanted to recuperate because I lost sleep. I could not eat. I lost so much weight. I knew that if I did not leave Somalia back then, probably I could have died either in the hands of the Islamic militants, or my health could have failed.
Your family in that time, did they know about your strugglings?
Yes, my family knew the challenges I was facing, my Muslim family, because they remained Muslim. I was the only disciple of Christ. And my mom and my relatives and some Muslim friends spent time with me, trying to convince me to return to Islam to save my life. But I knew they really loved me. I knew they cared about my well-being. I thanked them for their concerns. But I thank them so much for their attempt to safeguard my well-being, but I told them I was committed to continue walking with the Lord, and I will not look back.
Did they respect you for that?
They respected in the sense that they never used intimidation. I mean, most of them. One relative actually tried to kill me. But other than that, the rest just talked to me. My mom wrote me poetry. My mom is a poet. She wrote Somali poetry trying to convince me to return to Islam.
So she wanted to reach your heart
Absolutely.
during that. And you like poetry yourself.
Yes, I'm a poet. I write poetry, and if you Google my name, you will find my books on poetry. I published a few of them, some as an editor and one as an author.
You have even wrote the Gospel of Matthew as a poem.
Yes, I translated many years ago. I translated the Gospel according to Matthew into poetic Somali. So right now you could sing the entire Gospel, and it rhymes. It's like a hymn
Yeah.
from chapter 1 to the end.
You can sing it and then
can
you will
sing it.
remember it as well.
It's very easy to memorize now.
The Somali people, they will be a people of stories and poems and
Yes, Somali people are known as poets, and scholars, even in the past, wrote about how Somali people liked poetry and how they communicated in poetry. In the Somali culture, if you want to express a heartfelt belief system, you can express not in prose but in poetry, and people will take you more seriously when you do that. In Somali culture, we say that prose is the language of man and poetry is the language of God.
wow. And the poetry, will that be with a special rhythm and rhymes and
Yes, yes. The Somali poetry has different has a different types, and we have more types, I would say, than say English poetry. So there are at least 10 main genres of Somali poems, but all poetry is loved and respected.
And your mother, she wrote poems to you
Yes.
to catch your heart and
Yes.
get you back into. But she didn't manage to do that because you knew Jesus.
Yes, I love my mom. I must say my mom is a Muslim. She went to Mecca for Hajj. She's an amazing woman. She's a Muslim. She loves me so much. To this day, she never gave up trying to convince me to return to Islam. And she's doing all these things because she believes that Islam is the only way.
And and that is how it. What can I say? That is how it will be until she will meet with Jesus.
Yes, my mom is still strong and healthy at the age of 86. So I love my mom and I pray for her.
How you use the words and poetry also shows up in the worship songs.
Well, yeah, because poetry is so important in the Somali context. The Somali church is a Somali church, it's Somali people attending it. So we write our hymns, and when you look at them, missionaries tell me, whoa, these hymns are so different from what we are used to.
So what will you say the difference is?
Because of the nature of Somali people and the persecution the community of faith faces, the Somali hymns tend to be, according to some, very graphic and violent. In the way that the hymns express the commitment of the people of God to their faith, that they will not walk away no matter what.
Yeah, can you give some examples?
Yes, we have a hymn, for example, that says, if I'm hungry, I'm starving, I have nothing to eat, I will never deny my Lord. It also says, if they hit me with a big a clap on the head, I will not deny my Lord. If they decapitate me, cut my head off, I will not deny my Lord. If I am with no spouse, no children, no money, I will not deny my Lord. Haddii aan baahdo, beesa aan waayo, beenbeenin maayo, badbaad shahayga. That's one stanza.
when you said it in Somali, it sounds beautiful, but when you translate it, it's quite
Yes.
hard for our culture.
Yes. Anybody who translates poetry does not do justice to it.
I can see that we are reaching to an end with this program, but we will continue next week, and then we will look a bit more into the visions you saw as a group of young men, and also the vision for Somalia. Thank you so much, Aweis.
Thank you.
Og takk til deg som har fulgt oss. Altså, følg med neste uke og få med mer av Aweis sin sterke historie. Og vær gjerne med og be for det somaliske folket, at de skal få oppleve at det finnes en Gud som er en kjærlig far. Ha en velsignet kveld.